As you probably know, we're quite keen on stones. Isn't that right? Yep. It's a lovely wall indeed. Yeah, that's a lovely little stone. A very fine wall indeed. It's a fine wall. And that's a pretty nice bit of wall too, full of little stones. I don't know if you're seeing any similarities between the two walls that I've shown you, this one and the previous one. They're actually both once attached to barracks. The first one was at Maryhill Barracks, now long gone. This one is at the barracks just off the Gallowgate in the east end of Glasgow, the side of Barrack Street, which is a big clue.
You can see the development of the Gallowgate Barracks by examining old maps. It's not shown on John MacArthur's 1778 map, simply because it was built 17 years later. But what you can see on part of the site that would become the barracks, on land belonging to the college or university, is the Butts, an area used by the people of Glasgow to practice their archery skills and to ensure their readiness to be called up to fight for the king. The barracks are clearly shown on Peter Fleming's map of 1807. But it's not until the first Ordnance Survey map of 1857 that we really get a good look at the true extent of the site, now clearly bordered by what is now the Gallowgate, Barrack Street and Hunter Street, as shown on a modern satellite view. We also get to see individual buildings and what they were used for. From the stable, the straw shed and the guardhouse, to the soldiers' quarters, the prison, hospital and cookhouse. We also see that this was the site of a battle when the Earl of Lennox fought and was defeated by the Earl of Arran, who was second in line to the throne. Glasgow citizens sided with the Earl of Lennox and joined in the affray, which so annoyed Hamilton that he afterwards sacked the city. I must admit that I'm very confused about the date of this battle. The date on the 1857 map is 1556. The date in an Ordnance Survey name book dating to 1858 to 1861 is also 1556, probably copied from the 1857 map. The second statistical account of Scotland, dating to 1845, also gives the date as 1556. So it must have been in 1556. No? Why, then, do so many sources give the date of the Battle of the Butts as 1544? One even gives it as 1543. As far as I can see, there were no battles fought in Glasgow in 1556. Please don't tell me Ordnance Survey is wrong. About the only thing that happened in Glasgow in 1556 was the beer-brewing empire of tenants got up off the ground. So maybe some historians have just been supping a bit too much ale. Meanwhile, let's have a look at Thomas Solmon's bird's-eye view of Glasgow dating to 1864. This is a quite astonishing view of the city, now held by the University of Glasgow. If we zoom in a little, we can see some recognisable landmarks, like George Square, St Andrew's Church, the Brigade, the old college on the High Street, and up towards Port Dundas. But if we home in on the Gallowgate, we can see the barracks, and if we zoom in as far as we can even see little soldiers on parade. I could probably spend all day, every day, looking at the stunning detail and what is really just a coloured drawing of the city. There are precious few images of the old barracks. This sketch is the only image I've been able to find. It echoes what we've seen in Solomons View and on Ordnance Survey maps, in that we have a central square or parade area surrounded by infantry quarters and officers' quarters. Probably a fairly typical arrangement, as you always needed a parade ground for practising any number of skills, like marching back and forth, 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 back and forth. I imagine the soldiers there were initially intended to be used or deployed fairly locally, whether in Glasgow or really anywhere in Scotland's home turf, and a variety of regiments were involved. Today we seem to have just one regiment in Scotland, the Royal Regiment of Scotland. But in the old days there were lots of individual regiments, each with their own colours and identity. Their role would have been to deal with any leftover Jacobites, unruly citizens running riot, the possibility of invading French troops, or deployed across the water to sort out rebellions in Ireland. In old paintings of the Trongate we can generally see soldiers, undoubtedly from the nearby barracks. They were always there, hanging around, waiting for a riot to break out. Glasgow's probably had more than its fair share of riots, and at times the city's unruly inhabitants have been fired upon by soldiers. As time went by, soldiers from the Gallowgate could be sent anywhere. The 78th Highland Regiment of Foot may have been stationed there. Then again, maybe not. Certainly this regiment was involved in quelling a mutiny in India when citizens of that country revolted against British rule. As part of that mutiny, the British-held city of Lucknow was besieged by Indian forces in 1857. Various myths or spins were introduced into the conflict to make it look like the poor British inhabitants, and especially the women, were under considerable duress during the siege, which lasted for about 6 months. In paintings of the period, scenes depict poor, defenceless British women and children under attack by those Indian savages. The people of India just wanted their country back. One story, or myth, that grew from those spins involved a Jessie Brown, whose husband was a corporal with the 78th Highlanders, apparently stationed for a while in the Gallowgate Barracks. During the siege, she allegedly rallied the troops by announcing that she could hear the bagpipes of the relieving army. The Campbells are coming. She came to be known as Heelin' Jessie.
In most cases, the wall here that once surrounded Gallowgate Barracks has been cut down in size and sort of destroyed in some places. I think the only place you can perhaps see the wall at its original height and original state is just at the side of the fire station. The whole site was given over to the railway in the very late 19th century, the result of which was that I'll show you some maps at some stage in this video. I know you're thinking, no, not more maps. But I love maps. I love stones and maps. Just give me a stone or a mat for my Christmas and I'll be a happy man. But when the railway arrived, the site was sort of decimated, and they must have destroyed quite a lot of the wall. I think that the red brick that you can see here was maybe a part of that kind of railway development, although it's not typical of railway walls. Not that I'm really a wall expert or anything, but often when you see railway goods yards, there's a very stout big wall surrounding it. You know, they didn't want anybody to go into the railway area. But I think with the wall that would have surrounded the barracks here, it would have been pointless to pull it down and build another wall. So they would have kept as much of this as they could. But they have pulled an awful lot of it down. As I say, you'll see later railway lines going in here, and in order to access or get these lines in, they would have pulled a lot of the wall down. There's also a tunnel that goes underneath the barracks site. I don't know whether they, in constructing that tunnel, railway tunnel, I don't know whether they just kind of burrowed under the ground to create the tunnel, or whether they just dug a whole bit of ground out, built the stone tunnel, and then kind of filled it in again. I don't know which one of these it is, but either way, it's, you know, potentially just another major disruption to the site.
That said, it wasn't all soldiery. In 1817, a large balloon with a cat and dog in the basket was sent upwards into the air from the barracks grounds. Why this was done, I have not a clue, but hopefully the animals were returned to earth in one piece. When they weren't doing strange things with animals, the soldiers at the barracks would have relaxed with a pint or two in nearby hostelries. Here we see a few of them outside a tavern somewhere in the Gallowgate, probably towards the end of the 19th century. I don't know if it's by accident or design or just soldiery instinct, but they do seem to have arranged themselves in order of height. Well, just across the road from Morrisons, which now occupies the whole barrack site, both the building and its car park. We've got the pub Heel and Jessie's, I know, in an old building, and who knows, perhaps you had a lot of soldiers coming across here at the end of their shift. Do soldiers do shifts? I'm not sure. For a beer or two. You never know.